Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So this will start off this week's series of the Simul games that I have played on Friday. So this one is against Kat2007, I believe, if I'm right. Yes. So this was against Kat. It was a Vienna game. So you're going to see what a Vienna game looks like, and I'll show you how it goes. E4, E5, knight to C3, not knight to F3, not bishop to C4, but knight to C3, protecting my pawn and also controlling D5. So after bishop to C5, I played F4. And at this moment, this is what is called a Vienna game. So in the Vienna, the knight will be on C3, there will probably be F4 at some point, there might be bishop to C4 at some point, but that's that. So now you might be wondering, what if bishop takes G1 happens, right? Well, rook takes G1. And then you might be like, what happens if E takes F4? Well, D4. All of a sudden, the bishop opens up for a potential. The bishop might capture the pawn back. If something like queen H4 happens, there's always G3. And you might be like, well, what if queen takes H2? Well, rook to G2. So there's always saving grace for this. Queen H1, venture too far, knight D5, right? So there's always a route to get back at it. So that did happen. And F6 happened, and F6 was a little bit of an inaccuracy due to something that you probably wouldn't see coming. So I believe that some of the other ways to defend this pawn, you could play d6, you could play knight c6, you could, not sure how else you would really look at it, but after f6, here's the reason why. Well, first of all, I can think about playing knight f3, and then d6 would have to be played anyway, or knight c6 would have to be played anyway. But to me, the main reason why I thought f6 was a little bit of inaccuracy was because of f takes e5. And the reason behind it is what comes after. So, takes e5, and yes, I do yawn because I'm tired sometimes. That's okay. So f takes e5, and now the somewhat not quite obvious move at all, queen to h5 check. It is a simple double attack. It's hard to spot. It's very easy to miss because it's tricky, and at the same time it's fun because I don't get to do it a lot. And after king f8, queen takes e5, and all of a sudden I am up a pawn. That's right, you heard it. So here I was ready to give up a pawn and get it back later. But here I am pulling some tricks and I'm up a pawn. So d6 finally comes out. I retreat my queen. I bring out my knight. Knight to c6. I play bishop to b5. Now, I was also thinking about d3 because I wanted to bring this bishop out to g5. I sort of found that, bishop on g5, it's providing this diagonal, it's preventing this knight from going anywhere. So just in case if black wants to play knight to g5, I can stop it if my bishop is here. So that's a benefit. But I sort of thought, if I play d3, this bishop is gonna have to go to e2, and obviously I don't think it has much potential on e2. So played bishop to b5, and he does have this move knight to h5 here. Our friend Kat2007 could have played knight to h5, and I remember thinking in the game, I said I only have two squares to really look at. Number one, queen to g5, and number two, queen to h4. I have no other squares. And I was dead set on the fact that, okay, I was going to trade queens. So then, why did the eval bar go down a little bit? Well, because there's this move knight d4 afterwards. So queen g5, queen takes g5, knight takes, and knight d4. But all of a sudden, there's an attack on the bishop and an attack on the pawn. But I was thinking rook f1, knight f6, and bishop to d3. This was what I was thinking, but apparently it's good to keep queens on the board because the king is not in a great spot for black. So obviously I want to take advantage of that. And now that I look at the situation, keeping queens on the board is something worth thinking about. So bishop to b5 happened. Thank goodness knight h5 didn't happen. Bishop d7, and now d3. Knight to d4, I said, okay, I'll trade. I am up material. My king is in a better position. So I said, I'm checking all the boxes right now. But then I said bishop to c4. And here's the reason why I didn't trade on d7. Now, initially I said, I thought, I'm up material. Let's trade, right? Let's keep simplifying. Just crossing out the X's and the O's. But then I was like, I like my bishop there. So I left it there because I thought, you know what, my bishop on c4, it does a lot. It provides this laser vision. And it's not a bad bishop at all. Queen e7 happened, and now bishop g5. I'm finally getting my pieces on the right squares. And at this point, I am happy. I am satisfied. I am ready to fly. Bishop takes c3 happens, and I say, wow, that is a bold decision. Now, I don't exactly think that this trade benefits black, because my knight can go to d5, but I wasn't sure if this bishop takes c3 had to be necessary. First of all, black is saying, I'm going to give up the bishop pair. So now white has two dominant bishops. And at the same time, this bishop also prevents white from castling. So that's a very important thing to recognize, is that the bishop is very powerful on d4. But at the same time, white is now threatening knight to d5. So it's important that before we consider eliminating the threat completely, we should also consider alternative methods of prevention. And here I would have considered maybe queen to e5, maybe the move c6, maybe, I'm not sure, maybe bishop to c6. But first considering how to trade on the d5 square without sacrificing or exchanging one of black's more powerful pieces. So it's important to see the value of these guys, and even though their material is the same, it's important that you judge each position or each piece on a positional basis. So right now the bishop's doing great things, but if you say bye-bye to it for a knight that's about to do great things, well, maybe you're making too big of a sacrifice. So bishop takes e3, b takes, and now bishop to e6. You know why I said I didn't make the best choice here, but I said let's take. take, I'll castle. And now king e8. And I said, wow, that is bold, because you're moving into this line of sight. And immediately I said, how can I open this line of sight? I played the move e5. Sacrifice right away. Took some thought. I said, initially I said, take, queen g7. Then I was like, that doesn't look bad. But what if there was a better way to approach it, a more interesting way to do it? I said, let's take advantage of this long file that I see. So e5 comes down. D takes, rook to e1. Going for it. Knight to d7, and I said, king to h1. And the reason I played king to h1 was because I didn't want queen to b6 happen. I wanted the queen to stay on the diagonal. So king to h1, rook to f8. And I said, wow, you would do that for me? So I said, trade, king takes, and now a double attack. 1 and a 2. Queen to f7, I'll take that, thank you very much. Knight to b6, and now bishop to e3. Just simply saying, I want to remove the defender. After queen takes a2, I take the pawn on c7, and I say, I'm ready to come in. I'm like a warrior. And after queen takes e2, I see rook f1, king e8, queen c6. Now at the same time, I could have also played many more moves. I could have played queen takes e5 for checkmate. I could have played bishop to c5 for this checkmate. There's so many ways to checkmate. But I play queen to c6, and I say, if you move your knight to d7, I'm going to take your rook. So I wasn't even thinking about checkmate at the time. But it happened. So in this game, what can we really learn? Well, this one is sort of a small tip, but d6 and knight c6 instead of f6, simply because in this case, queen to h5 is possible. And if you do d6, take, queen to h5, there's no check. So that's just one realization. And number two is, well, I should have kept my queens on this board and prevented knight h5 from happening. So this is just a reminder for me, and that I am not perfect either. Bishop to b5, and all this is okay, right? Not much. And remember, don't sacrifice too much, because, the bishop, it's very powerful here. It's very powerful. It's in the center. It's looking like a wooden shield. That's an XQC reference. But no matter what, you're doing great in the middle. You don't want to give it up for some upcoming talent. So, like, we take somebody like somebody in the tennis world, right? Let's say Yannick Sinner from Italy. I don't know if you watch tennis or not, but think about it like this: an old man would not resign, or a living legend would not simply resign to a younger fellow just because he's younger and upcoming. I mean, there would be a sort of respect between the two, but it wouldn't be that we surrender right away, right? So in this case, queen to e5, maybe bishop to c6, maybe c6, just prevent this knight d5 instead of eliminating the good guy all along. So afterwards, I put some pressure in the center, and I got the job done, but it wasn't the smoothest, I have to say. And with that, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you keep your curiosity up. Hope you find your passion for the game. And I'll see you next time.